The fluorescent lights in the physical therapy room hurt my eyes, but not as much as the words coming through my phone. Dad, we need to talk about your living situation. You're too old to live alone anymore. I gripped the parallel bars tighter, my right knee throbbing from the replacement surgery 3 weeks ago. Marcus, my son, his voice had that tone. The one he used when he'd already made up his mind and was just going through the motions of pretending I had a say. I'm doing fine, Marcus. The therapist says I'm ahead of schedule. That's not what I'm hearing from Diane. She says you can barely make it to the bathroom. She's been doing everything for you. I bit my tongue. Diane, his wife, had been hovering like a vulture since the surgery. But I wasn't about to argue while standing on one good leg. We'll talk when I get home. Actually, we're coming to pick you up. We found a really nice place. Mountain View Senior Living. They have a spot available. My blood ran cold. A nursing home? It's an assisted living facility, Dad. Very different. They have activities, medical staff, on-site, everything you need. I don't need... We'll see you in an hour. He hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand, watching my physical therapist, Karen, walk over with concern written across her face. Everything okay, Robert? Was it? I'd spent 30 years running into burning buildings, pulling people out of wrecked cars, saving lives across Denver and the surrounding mountains. I'd raised Marcus alone after his mother died in a car accident when he was 12. I'd paid for his college, helped with the down payment on his first condo, bailed him out more times than I wanted to count. And now, barely 3 weeks after knee surgery, he was talking about putting me in a home? Yeah, I lied. Just family stuff. But as I hobbled through my exercises, something nagged at me. Marcus had moved in temporarily to help during my recovery. That was 3 weeks ago. In that time, I'd noticed little things. How he answered my phone and told people I was sleeping. How Diane had reorganized my kitchen, my bathroom, my entire house without asking. How my old firefighter buddies from Station 19 had stopped coming by when they used to visit every week. You're too old to live alone. I was 62. I'd just completed a volunteer rescue training course 2 months before I blew out my knee on a hiking trail. Too old? The words felt like acid. Karen helped me to the chair. Robert, I have to tell you something. Your daughter-in-law called here yesterday. I looked up. Diane? She asked about your cognitive status, whether you were showing signs of confusion or memory loss. Karen's expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the question in her eyes. What did you tell her? The truth. That you're sharp as a tack and doing excellent in therapy. She paused. But Robert, that's not a normal question for family to ask, unless they're concerned about something specific. Has anything happened? My mind raced. Cognitive status, memory loss. Why would Diane ask about that? Unless... No, I said slowly. Nothing's happened. But everything was about to. Marcus and Diane picked me up an hour later. The drive to see Mountain View took us past my house in Lakewood. My house, where I'd lived for 30 years, where I'd raised my son, where every corner held a memory of my late wife, Sarah. We're not going home first? I asked from the back seat. We thought you'd want to see the facility while we're out, Diane said brightly. Too brightly. They're holding the spot, but only until end of business today. A spot, like I was a piece of furniture that needed storing. Mountain View Senior Living was nice, I'll give them that. Clean, bright, smelled like pine and institutional laundry, instead of the urine and decay I'd always associated with nursing homes. The director, a woman named Patricia, gave us the tour. Private rooms, physical therapy on site, meal plans, activities. And Mr. Castellano, we have several other retired first responders here. You'd fit right in. I nodded, smiled, played along, but I was watching Marcus and Diane, the way they exchanged glances, the way Diane touched Marcus's arm when Patricia mentioned the costs, the way Marcus's jaw tightened. How much is it? I asked. We can discuss that later, Dad. How much? Patricia named a figure that made my stomach drop. $4,500 a month. I had good insurance, a decent pension, but that would drain my savings in a year. Of course, many of our residents finance this through home sales, Patricia said smoothly. We have excellent relationships with several real estate agents who specialize in quick sales. There it was, home sales. I looked at Marcus, really looked at him. At 35, he should have been thriving. He had a good job as an IT manager, or at least he used to. Diane worked as a dental hygienist. No kids yet, they said they were waiting. But I saw the strain around his eyes, the weight he'd lost, the way his hands trembled slightly when Patricia mentioned money. I need to think about it, I said. Marcus's face went hard. Dad, we've been over this. You can't live alone anymore. I'm recovering from surgery, not dying. Give me another month and I'll be... Another month? Diane laughed, shrill. Robert, you can barely dress yourself. You haven't cooked a meal in weeks. You can't even reach the top shelves anymore. Because I had knee surgery. It's not just the knee. Marcus leaned forward. We've noticed things, Dad. You forget conversations. You left the stove on twice last week. You got confused about what day it was. I stared at him. That's not true. Dr. Morrison is concerned too, Diane added. We talked to him after your last appointment. My doctor. They'd talked to my doctor. About me. Behind my back. I want to go home, I said quietly. Dad. Now, Marcus. Take me home now, or I'm calling an Uber. The drive back was silent. When we pulled up to my house, I noticed something I hadn't before. There was a lockbox on the front door. The kind real estate agents use. What's that? I pointed. Just a precaution, Marcus said quickly. In case of emergency. I used my key. It didn't work. You changed the locks? For security, Dad. After your surgery, we wanted to make sure. Open the door, Marcus. He did, but the look on his face told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about my safety. This was about control. Inside, my house didn't feel like mine anymore. The furniture was rearranged. Pictures were missing from the walls. My recliner, the one Sarah had bought me for our 20th anniversary, was gone. Where's my chair? It was falling apart, Dad. We donated it to Goodwill. Got you a nice new one from Ashley Furniture. Diane gestured to a stiff-looking monstrosity in beige. You had no right. We're trying to help. Diane's voice cracked with frustration. Do you know how hard this has been? Taking care of you, managing your medications, dealing with your stubbornness? I didn't ask you to. You couldn't ask. You were barely conscious after surgery. Marcus stepped between us. Dad, look. We're doing this because we love you. But you need more care than we can provide. Mountain View is the best option. I looked at my son. At this man I'd raised, who I'd taught to ride a bike and throw a football and treat people with respect. And I realized I didn't know him anymore. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of my house. Both of you. Dad, you're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clear. This is my house. I'm not selling it. I'm not going to a nursing home. And you two need to leave. Marcus's face flushed red. Fine, but don't call us when you fall and can't get up. Don't call when you run out of food because you can't drive. Don't call when... I won't, I said. Now, get out. They left. I heard Diane crying as they walked to the car. Part of me, the father part, wanted to call them back, but a louder part, the part that had survived 3 decades of emergency services, knew something was very wrong. I locked the new locks I didn't have keys for from the inside. Then, I called the one person I knew would tell me the truth. Tommy? It's Rob. I need a favor. Tommy Blackwell had been my partner at Station 19 for 15 years before he retired. He'd been at Sarah's funeral. He was one of the buddies who'd stopped visiting. Rob! Man, I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Marcus keeps saying you're sleeping or not feeling well. That's what I was afraid of. Tommy, I need you to come over, tonight, and don't tell anyone. What's going on? I think my son is trying to steal my house. There was a long pause. I'll be there in 20 minutes. And Rob? I'm bringing evidence. Tommy showed up with a folder full of papers and his daughter Claire, who was a lawyer specializing in elder law. They sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Sarah and I had hosted countless dinners, and laid out the truth. It started about 2 months ago, Tommy said. Marcus called me. Said you were getting forgetful, that you didn't want visitors because you were embarrassed about your condition. I never said that. I know that now. But he was convincing, Rob. He had details. Said you'd forgotten our birthdays, that you couldn't remember stories you used to tell. He said you'd asked him not to tell anyone because you were proud. That sounded like something I'd do, which made it a perfect lie. Claire opened her folder. Mr. Castellano, we need to go through some things. Have you signed any documents lately? Power of attorney? Medical directives? Anything? No, nothing. Are you sure? Sometimes they slip things into hospital paperwork. I thought back to the surgery. I'd been pretty out of it on pain meds those first few days. I signed admission forms. Standard stuff. Do you have copies? Marcus handled all that. Claire and Tommy exchanged looks. What? I demanded. Rob, Tommy said carefully. 3 days ago, a real estate agent posted your house on several senior living community boards, saying it would be available soon, owner moving to assisted living, quick sale needed. My heart hammered. That's not possible. I never agreed. There's more. Claire pulled out printed screenshots. This is from your son's Facebook page. He's posted several times about the difficult decision to move his father to memory care, about how hard it is to watch a parent decline. He's building a public narrative. Memory care. Not even assisted living. Memory care, where they put people with dementia and Alzheimer's. He's lying. I don't have dementia. I'm not declining. I had knee surgery. We know, Claire said gently. But he's creating a paper trail. If he can get a doctor to say you're incompetent, if he can show you're living in unsafe conditions, if he can demonstrate that you need more care than you're receiving, he can petition for guardianship. The room spun. Guardianship? It would give him legal control over your person and your property. He could make medical decisions for you. Financial decisions. He could sell your house without your consent. That's insane. I'm sitting right here. I'm fine. But he's been telling everyone you're not fine. He's isolated you from friends. He's talked to your doctor, your physical therapist, probably your neighbors. He's building a case. Tommy put a hand on my shoulder. The guys at the station were worried. That's why I started digging. Jake tried to visit you last week. Diane told him you'd had a bad night, that you didn't recognize her that morning. That never happened. I know, buddy. But that's what she told him. And she was crying, real tears, talking about how hard it is to watch you fade. Fade. Like I was already dead. Why? The word came out broken. Why would Marcus do this? Claire hesitated. Mr. Castellano, are you aware of your son's financial situation? He has a good job. He's always been responsible with money. He was fired from his job 6 months ago. Did you know that? The room tilted. What? He was let go for missing work. He and his wife are 3 months behind on their mortgage. They have $40,000 in credit card debt, and she pulled out another paper. He has a gambling problem. He's banned from 3 casinos in Black Hawk. I couldn't breathe. My son. My boy. The one I'd raised, to be honest. To work hard. To take responsibility. Your house is worth about $450,000, Claire continued. If he could get guardianship, put you in Mountain View, and sell the house, that would solve all his problems. But he's my son. I know. Tommy's voice was thick. And that's what makes this so hard to believe. But Rob, we've seen this before. Financial desperation makes people do terrible things, even to the people they love. I sat there, in my kitchen, in my house, and felt something crack inside me. Not break, crack, like ice before it shatters. What do I do? Claire opened her briefcase. First, we protect you legally. I need you to sign some documents. A new power of attorney naming someone you trust. A medical directive making your wishes clear. A revocable living trust, protecting your assets. Then, Tommy said, we gather evidence. Because if Marcus is doing what we think he's doing, he's committed several crimes. Fraud, elder abuse, attempted theft. I looked at my old friend, at this man who'd run into fires beside me, who'd saved my life twice, and I'd saved his 3 times. You think my son belongs in jail? I think your son needs help. Tommy said carefully. But first, we need to stop him from destroying your life, to save his. Over the next 2 weeks, while Marcus and Diane thought I was considering Mountain View, I worked with Claire and Tommy. We installed cameras around my house, tiny things, invisible, that recorded everything. We recorded Diane telling the mailman I had Alzheimer's and shouldn't receive bills anymore. She tried to redirect my mail to their address. We recorded Marcus on the phone with my doctor's office, lying about symptoms I supposedly had. Confusion, wandering, aggression. We recorded them going through my files in the study, looking for bank statements and insurance policies. And we found the forged power of attorney. It was hidden in a drawer in the guest room where they'd been sleeping. A perfect forgery of my signature, dated the day after my surgery, when I'd been on heavy pain medication. It gave Marcus complete control over my medical and financial decisions. "This is a felony," Claire said when she saw it. "This isn't just unethical. This is criminal." "What about Diane?" I asked. "Is she part of this or just following Marcus's lead?" Tommy pulled up text messages we'd recovered from the cloud. Marcus had been locked into my phone one day and never logged out of his backup. The texts between Marcus and Diane were damning. "We can get $450K for the house easy. Use $150K to pay off our debts. Put him in Mountain View for a year with another $50K. That leaves us $250K to start over. What if he fights it? He won't have a choice. With the POA and Dr. Morrison's notes, we can get emergency guardianship. He'll be in Mountain View before he knows what hit him. I feel bad about this." "Don't. He'll be taken care of. This is better for everyone." I read those messages sitting in Claire's office, and something inside me finished shattering. My son wasn't confused. He wasn't misguided. He was calculating. He'd planned this. He'd created a false narrative, isolated me, manipulated doctors and friends, forged legal documents, all to steal my house and lock me away. "What's the next step?" I asked quietly. Claire looked at me with something like pity. "That depends on what you want, Mr. Castellano. We have enough evidence to press charges. Marcus would likely face jail time. Diane, too, if we can prove she was complicit and not just following his lead. Or we handle this privately. Confront them, make them leave, get a restraining order. No police, no public record." I thought about that. About my son in jail. About Sarah looking down, seeing what her boy had become. About the embarrassment, the whispers, the news stories. Retired firefighter's son arrested for elder abuse. But I also thought about the alternative, about letting him get away with it, about what message that sent, about the next elderly person he might target if his plan had worked. "There's a third option," Tommy said. "We set a trap. We let them think they've won. Then we spring it in a way that makes sure they can never try this again." I looked at my old partner. "What kind of trap?" The next day, I called Marcus. "I've been thinking about Mountain View. You're right. I do need more help than I've been willing to admit." The relief in his voice was almost heartbreaking. "Dad, that's great. You're making the right choice. I want to do this right. I want my affairs in order. Claire Blackwell, Tommy's daughter, she's been helping me with some legal stuff. Estate planning, medical directives. I want you there for the meeting." "Of course, Dad. Whatever you need. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. at Claire's office downtown. We'll be there." The next day, Marcus and Diane arrived at Claire's office in their best clothes. Marcus was smiling, relaxed. Diane held his hand. They thought they'd won. Claire's conference room was set up like a formal meeting. She was there, crisp and professional. Tommy was there, in his dress uniform from his fire department days. And Judge William Santos was there, an old friend who'd agreed to observe. "Thank you for coming," I said as Marcus and Diane sat down. "I know this hasn't been easy on anyone. We're just glad you're being reasonable, Dad." "I want to go through some documents," Claire said, sliding papers across the table. "Making sure everyone understands Mr. Castellano's wishes." She laid out several forms, advanced medical directives, a new will, a living trust. "All of these need to be signed and witnessed," Claire explained. "Judge Santos has agreed to notarize everything." Marcus nodded along, scanning the documents. I watched his eyes land on the crucial parts. The trust that put my house beyond anyone's reach. The medical directive that specified Tommy as my healthcare proxy, not Marcus. The will that left everything to a charity, with only a small personal bequest to Marcus. His face went white. "What is this?" "My wishes," I said calmly. "This cuts me out. This gives Tommy control. This," he looked at Diane, panic in his eyes. "Marcus," Claire said quietly. "Did you really think we didn't know?" "Know what?" She slid another document across the table. "The forged power of attorney. We know you forged this. We know about the real estate agents. We know you've been lying to Robert's doctor, his friends, his neighbors. We know about the gambling, the debt, the plan to sell his house and lock him in Mountain View." Diane stood up. "We're leaving." "Sit down, Mrs. Castellano." Judge Santos spoke for the first time. "You're not going anywhere until you've heard what we have to say." Tommy placed a laptop on the table and turned it around. Videos played, audio recordings, text messages, every piece of evidence we'd gathered. Marcus's face cycled through denial, anger, fear, and finally resignation. "Dad, I can explain." "No," I cut him off. "You can't explain this, Marcus. You can't explain forging my signature. You can't explain lying about me having dementia. You can't explain planning to steal my house and lock me away in a nursing home. I was desperate. We were going to lose everything. So you decided to take everything from me instead?" Diane was crying. "We weren't going to hurt you. You'd be taken care of at Mountain View. You'd be safe." "Safe?" I stood up, and my knee ached, but I didn't care. "You wanted to lock me in a facility, take my house, and abandon me there. You told people I had Alzheimer's. You told my friends I didn't want to see them. You isolated me, manipulated me, and forged legal documents. That's not safety. That's elder abuse." "What are you going to do?" Marcus whispered. Claire answered. "That depends on your cooperation. Right now, Mr. Castellano has enough evidence to press criminal charges. Fraud, forgery, conspiracy, attempted theft. You'd both be facing significant prison time. But," Judge Santos added, "Mr. Castellano is willing to offer an alternative." I pulled out 2 documents. "These are restraining orders. You stay 500 feet away from me at all times. You never contact me, never come to my house, never speak to my friends or doctors. You leave my life completely. And," Marcus's voice cracked, "and you check yourself into Gamblers Anonymous. Today. You attend meetings for a minimum of 1 year. You get financial counseling. You fix your marriage and your life. What if we don't? Then we go to the police. We press charges. You go to jail." I leaned forward. "But Marcus, I want you to understand something. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this because you're my son, and you're sick. You have an addiction that made you willing to destroy your own father. That needs treatment, not enabling." Diane sobbed into her hands. Marcus stared at the table. "There's one more thing," I said. "If you complete the program, if you genuinely change, if you do the work to become the man I raised you to be, in 1 year, we can talk about rebuilding our relationship, but it will be on my terms, and it will require you to earn back every ounce of trust you destroyed." Marcus looked up, tears streaming down his face. "Do I have a choice?" "You always had a choice," I said. "You chose to lie. You chose to manipulate. You chose to try to steal from me. Now you get to choose whether to change or face criminal charges." They signed the restraining orders. Judge Santos witnessed them. Then Claire escorted them out. When they were gone, I sat down heavily. Tommy put a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing," he said. "Did I? I just kicked my son out of my life. You gave him a chance to save his life. That's more than most people would do." "Do you think he'll take it?" Tommy shrugged. "I don't know, buddy, but that's up to him now. You've done everything you can." The next 6 months were hard. I went to physical therapy and rebuilt my strength. I reconnected with friends from the station. I started volunteering again, teaching fire safety at schools. I sold Sarah's car, the one that had been sitting in the garage. and used the money to fund a scholarship for kids of first responders. I didn't hear from Marcus. Not a word. But Tommy kept tabs on him, through mutual friends, through the 12-step community, through the grapevine that exists in every city. Marcus had checked into GA that same day. He was attending meetings. He'd found a new job, less prestigious but honest work. Diane was seeing a therapist. "He's doing the work," Tommy reported. "It's not easy, but he's doing it." "Good," I said, but I didn't reach out. I'd meant what I said. 1 year. Then we'd see. 1 year to the day after that meeting in Claire's office, my doorbell rang. I was in the garage, building a bookshelf, when I heard it. I almost didn't answer, but something made me put down my tools and walk to the door. Marcus stood on my porch. He'd gained weight back. He looked healthier. Tired, but healthier. "Hi, Dad." "Marcus, I know I'm not supposed to be here, but I needed to tell you something." I waited. "You were right. About everything. I was sick. I am sick. I'll always be sick. But I'm getting better. I've been clean for a year. No gambling. I'm in therapy. Diane and I are working through things. I got a job at a non-profit helping people with addiction." "That's good to hear." I wanted to say, his voice broke. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I know sorry doesn't fix what I did, but I'm so sorry. I was willing to destroy you to save myself, and that's unforgivable. I stood there, looking at my son, at the boy I'd raised, who'd made terrible choices, who'd hurt me more than anyone ever had. And I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Genuine remorse. Real change. "Do you remember what I taught you about firefighting?" I asked. He looked confused. "Which part?" "What I said about fear." Marcus thought for a moment. Then, quietly, "You said fear is information. It tells you something's wrong. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right even when you're terrified." "That's right. You were terrified of losing everything. The fear gave you information. You were in trouble. But instead of doing the courageous thing, asking for help, facing your addiction, being honest, you did the cowardly thing. You tried to solve your problem by creating a bigger problem. I know, but you're here now. That took courage." Marcus wiped his eyes. "What happens now?" I thought about that. About forgiveness and consequences, about love and boundaries, about the kind of father I wanted to be, and the kind of man I needed my son to become. Now we start over, slowly. Coffee once a month. Public places, supervised by Tommy if you want. We rebuild trust one brick at a time. And if you relapse, if you lie, if you manipulate even once, we're done. Forever. I understand, do you? Because this isn't a second chance, Marcus. This is your last chance. There won't be another one. I know, Dad, and I'm not going to waste it. I opened the door wider. "Come in. I'll make coffee." But we're sitting in the living room where the cameras can see us. He nodded. I deserve that. As we sat there, drinking coffee in awkward silence, I thought about Sarah, about what she'd say if she could see us now. I think she'd be sad, disappointed, but also hopeful, because people can change. Not all of them, not always, but sometimes. Tommy asked me later if I thought I'd made the right choice, giving Marcus another chance instead of sending him to jail. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I know this. Knowledge without change is just guilt. Marcus knows what he did was wrong. He's carrying that guilt every day, but he's using it to change. That's the difference between redemption and regret. What if he backslides? Then we deal with it. But I'm not going to punish him for a relapse that hasn't happened. I'm going to give him the chance to prove he's serious about being better." "You're a better man than most, Rob." "No," I said. "I'm just a father who remembers what it's like to be given a second chance when you don't deserve one." It's been 2 years now. Marcus and I have coffee twice a month. He's never missed an appointment. He's still in therapy, still in GA. He and Diane are doing better. They had a baby last month. My first grandchild. Marcus asked if I wanted to meet her. I said yes. When I held that little girl in my arms, looking at my son's face, seeing the fear and hope there, I realized something. Marcus hadn't just been sick with addiction. He'd been sick with the disease we all carry, the belief that we can control everything, that we can solve our problems without asking for help, that we're alone in our struggles. I'd had that disease too, when Sarah died. I'd tried to be strong, to not burden Marcus with my grief, to handle everything on my own. Maybe that's where he learned it. Maybe that's what I'd taught him without meaning to. "She's beautiful," I said, handing the baby back. We named her Sarah, after Mom. I felt tears sting my eyes. She would have loved that. "Dad, I want you to be part of her life. If you're willing." I looked at my son. At this man who'd betrayed me, hurt me, tried to steal everything from me, and who'd clawed his way back from the edge of destroying himself, who'd done the hard work of changing, who'd earned, brick by brick, the right to be called my son again. "I'd like that," I said. As I drove home that night, past the mountains that had been my home for 62 years, past the fire station where I'd spent 3 decades, past the church where I'd married Sarah and buried her, I thought about revenge and forgiveness. Revenge is easy. Punishment is easy. Cutting people off is easy. What's hard is holding people accountable while still offering them hope. What's hard is demanding change while believing change is possible. What's hard is loving someone enough to let them face consequences, and loving them enough to welcome them back when they've earned it. I don't know if I made the right choice. Maybe I should have pressed charges. Maybe I should have cut Marcus out of my life forever. Maybe I'm a fool for giving him another chance. But when I look at that little girl, my granddaughter Sarah, I think about the world I want her to grow up in. A world where mistakes can be redeemed, where addiction is treated, not just punished, where families can break and heal again, and that's okay. Where being too old to live alone doesn't mean being too old to make your own choices. That's the world I fought for as a firefighter. That's the world Sarah believed in. And that's the world I'm going to keep fighting for, one difficult choice at a time. Because in the end, the hardest fires to fight aren't the ones in burning buildings. They're the ones in human hearts. And sometimes, the only way to put them out is to let them burn, to watch from a safe distance, and to be there with water when the person inside is finally ready to let you help. Marcus is ready now. It took him hitting rock bottom. It took me almost losing everything. But he's ready. And so am I.